Hi everyone! In this video, I'm going to show you how to knit a honeybee. The techniques and stitches that you'll need are stockinette, basic increases and decreases, mattress stitch for the seams, color changes, and single crochet and chain crochet stitches for the wings. You'll need about 3 ounces of DK or sport weight yarn, or about 3 to 4 times that if you're using a bulky weight yarn. About half of your yarn should be in yellow and about half of it needs to be in black. You'll also need some fine white airy yarn for the wings. Use knitting needles that are at least 2 sizes smaller than what's recommended for the yarn you're using. And use a crochet hook in the size needed for the yarn that you're going to use for the wings. Some other things you'll need are stuffing, scissors, a tapestry needle, and some type of row counter so that you can keep track of the row you're on. With each of my animals, I like to include a list of that animal's attributes. Bees are busy, industrious, organized, driven, social, focused, service-oriented, anxiously engaged, helpful, sacrificing, faithful, and dedicated. All of my animals use the same body and leg patterns, so I've made separate videos for them. In this video, I'll explain how to modify those patterns to get the stripes on the body and the optional skinnier or more insect-looking legs. You can find links to the basic body and leg videos in the description. And if you want your bee to have different colored hands and feet, be sure to watch the part of the arms and legs video that shows how to do that. The changes that you'll need to make on the basic body pattern are cast on in black, and then continue following the basic body pattern until you get to row 9. On row 9, change to yellow, and then you'll start doing the stripes. The stripe pattern is 4 rows of yellow, 2 rows of black. Follow the basic body pattern, but then alternate 4 rows of yellow and then 2 rows of black. When you get to the very end, finish off in yellow instead of switching to black. For the legs, you can just use the basic leg pattern in the general instructions. But if you'd like to have skinnier, more insect-looking legs, here's what you can do. Cast on 14 in black. Purl on row 1. On row 2, knit 3, then do a left decrease. The left decrease on the knitting side is usually written as slip, slip, knit, or SSK. Then knit the final stitches, and you should have 13 stitches. On row 3, you're going to purl 3, then purl 2 together, and then purl the remaining stitches. And so you should have 12 stitches on row 3. On row 4, knit 3, do a left decrease, and then knit the final stitches, and you should have 11 when you're done. On row 5, purl 3, then purl 2 together, and then purl the remaining stitches, and you should have 10 when you're done. On row 6, knit the first 3, then do a left decrease, and then knit 5, and then you should have 9 when you're finished. And on row 7, purl 3, then purl 2 together, and then purl the remaining 4 stitches, and that should give you 8 stitches when you're done. On rows 8 through 19, continue in stockinette on these 8 stitches until you get to row 20. And I'll meet you back here when you're ready to do row 20. On row 20, we're going to change color to yellow, and then we're going to increase with every stitch. So we're going to knit 1, increase 1, knit 1, increase 1. Do that on every stitch until you get to the last stitch, and don't increase on the last stitch. So when you're done, you should have 15 stitches. Then continue in stockinette on these 15 stitches until you get to row 25. On row 25, you're going to decrease, and the pattern is purl 1 and purl 2 together. Do that all the way across until you get to the end, and then you should have 10 stitches when you're done. On row 27, purl 1, then purl 2 together 4 times, and then purl the last stitch, and you should have 6 stitches. Then cut the yarn and thread the tail through the remaining stitches. And then you'll fold it in half and sew the side seam using mattress stitch, just as you do for the other legs. And that's the change that you need to make to the legs to make them have this kind of look that's wider at the top and skinnier at the bottom. Now let's knit the headpiece. For the headpiece, we're going to begin with the nose, so cast on 6 in black. On row 1, we're going to change to the yellow color and just purl across. We're going to increase on row 2. So the pattern is knit 1 and increase 1 Do that all the way across until you get to the end, and then you should have 12 stitches. Purl across on row 3. On row 4, knit the first 4 stitches, then knit 1 and increase 1 4 times, and then just knit the final 4 stitches, and you should have 16 stitches when you're done. Purl across on row 5. On row 6, knit the first 3, then knit 2 and increase 1 4 times, and then knit the final 5 stitches. And when you're done with row 6, you should have 20 stitches. Purl across on row 7. On row 8, knit the first 3, then knit 2 and increase 1, do that 6 times, and then knit the final 5 stitches, and you should have 26 stitches when you're done. Purl across on row 9. On row 10, knit the first 2, then knit 2 and increase 1, do that 10 times, and then knit the final 4, and you should have 36 stitches when you're done. Continue in stockinette for rows 11, 12, and 13, and then meet me back here when you're ready to start row 14. On row 14, knit the first 3, then increase 1 and knit 6, do that 6 times, then increase 1, and then knit the final 3. And when you're done, you should have 42 stitches. For rows 15, 16, and 17, just continue in stockinette and meet me back here when you're ready to begin row 18. On row 18, the pattern is knit 6 and increase 1. Do that all the way across until you get to the end, and don't increase at the very end. So when you're done, you should have 48 stitches. Purl across on row 19. On 20, switch to black and then just knit across. Then continue in stockinette for rows 21, 22, 23, and 24. And meet me back here on row 25 where we'll begin decreasing. On row 25, we're ready to begin decreasing at the back of the head. So purl 3, then purl 2 together. Then the pattern is purl 6 and purl 2 together. Do that 5 times. And then purl the last 3. And you should have 42 stitches when you're done with row 25. Knit across on row 26. On row 27, purl the first 2, then purl 2 together. Then the pattern is purl 5 and purl 2 together. Do that 5 times, and then purl the last 3, and when you're done you should have 36. Knit across on row 28. On row 29, purl the first 2. Then the pattern is purl 2 together and purl 1. Do that 11 times and then just purl the last stitch. And you should have 25 stitches at the end of row 29. Knit across on row 30. Then on row 31, purl the first stitch. Then purl 2 together 11 times. And then just purl the last 2. And you'll have 14 stitches. Knit across on row 32, and then on row 33, purl 1, and then purl 2 together 6 times, and purl the last stitch. And you should have 8 stitches when you're done. Don't cast off when you're done. Instead, cut your yarn and leave just enough to sew the seam and to attach the head to the body when you're done. And then thread the tail onto a tapestry needle and carefully thread the tail back through each stitch on the needle. Just to be safe, I like to thread the tail through those same stitches a second time. And then pull tight to make a nice closure. Then you can sew the bottom head seam a little less than halfway from the back to the neck at the bottom of the head. And then take the tail that you left at the cast on edge and weave this through the cast on stitches, and then sew up the head seam, leaving a wide enough opening at the bottom where you can stuff the head. And that finishes up the main headpiece for now. Now let's knit the antennae. The antennae are black, so cast on 6 in black. Then purl across on row 1. Then continue in stockinette from rows 2 through 13. And meet me back here when you're ready to knit row 14. On row 14, knit 1 and increase 1 5 times, and then knit 1, and you should have 11 stitches. Purl across on row 15. On row 16, knit 2 and increase 1. Do that 5 times, and then knit the last stitch, and you should have 16 stitches when you're done. Continue in stockinette on rows 17 and 18. On row 19, purl 1 and purl 2 together. Do that 5 times, and then purl the last stitch, and when you're done you should have 11 stitches. Knit across on row 20. And then on row 21, purl the first stitch, and then knit 2 together 5 times. And when you're done, you should have 6 stitches. Then cut the yarn, leaving a long enough tail for sewing, and then pull it through these last stitches. Then fold the antenna in half and use mattress stitch to sew the side seam. When we're ready to assemble the head, we'll sew the antenna to the head using these leftover tails. Now let's make the wings. These wings are actually quite a bit easier than the instructions make them look. So here's how you make them. First, measure how long you want the wings to be. They should be about as long as the body. So measure the size of the body and then divide this number in half and cut a fold or strip of paper that tall. For example, if you have a body that's 4 inches tall, then you need to have a strip of paper that's 2 inches wide. I'm going to fold my paper so that it's just about the size that I need. Then get the yarn that you want to use. I like yarn that has kind of a halo effect that makes it look a little bit more airy. Take that yarn and wrap it 30 times around your paper. Be careful not to wrap too tightly so that it makes the paper bend. Don't cut the yarn. Take the end of yarn and wrap it through and around the end of the loop several times. Tie a knot tightly without cutting the yarn. Then pull the yarn up to the tip of one of the loops. Insert the hook into this loop and pull the yarn through. Then single crochet in the tip of that first loop. Then you'll chain 3, and to chain 3, you just stick your hook through the loop, grab a yarn, and pull it through. Do that 3 times. Then find the next loop and do a single crochet in the top of that loop. And then chain 3 again. Repeat these 2 steps of single crocheting in the next loop and then chaining 3. Repeat that all the way until you get around to the first loop again. Once you get around to the first loop, then slip stitch in the beginning single crochet, and then you can finish off, leaving an amount of yarn that you can use to sew the wing to the body later. Sew the top 2/3 of the wing's inside edge down the center of the bee's back, leaving the bottom third and the outside wing edge unattached. Repeat this for the second wing and attach the second wing on the other side. And remember, I have separate videos for knitting the body, arms, and legs, and assembly. So in this video, I'm focusing mostly on the head. You can find all the other videos, including the one on assembling, in the playlist on my channel. The wings should already be on the back of the body, and then sew the arms and legs onto the body, as explained in the assembly video. A French knot works well for the eyes. Pull the yarn out at the position where you want the eye. Then stick your needle back in through that same hole and come back out one stitch away. Don't pull the yarn all the way through, but leave a little loop that you can stick your needle into. Pull the loop snug, but not too tight, against the needle, and then, while holding it in place, wrap the yarn 5 to 6 times around the needle. The more wraps you have here, the larger your eyes will be. But the more loops you have, the harder they are to manage and create an eye with a clean edge. Then hold the loop and wraps carefully with one hand as you pull the needle and yarn through them, creating a little circle of loops. To secure the little circle of loops into position, I like to add a couple more loops by stitching close near the bottom of the eye on the head and then coming back out through the center of the loops. I like to do this a few times until the eye feels secure on all sides. Follow these same steps to add the second eye, about 4 to 5 stitches apart from the first. And here's how the honeybee looks when it's all done. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like it and subscribe to my channel so you can get notified when I release new animal and clothing patterns. And feel free to share a photo of your completed project on my Facebook page. See you next time.